Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. A lack of affordable housing in Vancouver is a big problem. The NDP brought the issue up in the House of Commons today. Vancouver MP Jenny Kwan says that the Liberals have failed miserably when it comes to providing affordable housing for Indigenous people. Not so, though, said the Housing Minister Ahmed Hussein.
In Vancouver, nearly 40% of the unhoused are Indigenous peoples. For the last 4 years, this Liberal government has claimed that they're working on a for Indigenous, by Indigenous, urban, rural, and northern housing strategy. So far, there has been no progress, and they didn't even bother to mention it in this throne speech. This glaring omission is a disgrace, and given the urgent need and their promise of reconciliation. So it is time for the Liberals to be honest. Is a for Indigenous, by Indigenous housing strategy no longer a priority for this Prime Minister?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every Canadian deserves a safe and affordable place to call home. Since we came into office, we've helped over 1 million families get the housing that they need, but we absolutely agree that there is more work to be done. We are committed to Indigenous-led, Indigenous-owned urban and rural and northern Indigenous housing strategy. This week's throne speech outlines our government's continued commitment to making housing more affordable by bringing in a $4 billion housing accelerator fund, ending chronic homelessness, and a rent-to-own program to help renters become owners. There is more work to be done, but there's a lot of progress that has already been achieved as well, Mr. Speaker.
Well, the new Member of Parliament for Nunavut asked her first question in the House of Commons on Friday. Laurie Idloot directed her question in Inuktitut to Northern Affairs Minister Dan Vandal. This being her first time standing in the House, the Speaker gave her some leeway, allowing it to go on much longer than usual.
The Honourable Member for Nunavut.
Okaktitiye Nunavum Mutate in Natokait, Pivik Kaktitout Tiamnanit, Nutau Vang Mata, Nunavo Selatanut, Kimaititau Lutik, Ilaminik, Nunaring Munit, Kamagiyagunang Nimatagok, Nunavume. Taimangani 2017 Mik, in Natokatkuvi, Tatasimayut. Uvani maligaliok Vicjangmi, Pitakaupuk, Pikoyivungarotinik, Amaru Piliriang Nerakto Unik, Kisiani, Amisuraktut, Aturaktitau Simangitut, Ikayuktau Simangitut, Amaru, Sanarvaititau Simangitut, in Natukakuvik Sangnut. Prime Minister, ikpigusutiang nyakpa, nunavumil, innatukanginit, amaro, katimayigarangit, nunakakaksimayut, amaro ukiok taktong miunut, kayo sititilutik, innatukakuvingit, sakititik paliglutit, amaro kamagiyaw kodlugit, nunavumit, innakutivut, kuyaname.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister.
Member from Nunavut for the question, and I sincerely look forward to working together with the member to solve these many concerns that were brought up. I'm proud that I am the first ever Minister of Northern Affairs to give the attention to the infrastructure, the housing, the healthcare, the seniors, all of a gamut of issues that our government is engaged in and committed to work with the honourable member to solve these problems into the future.
A third case of the Omicron variant of COVID-19 has been detected in Canada, this time in Quebec, and the province's health minister is now advising residents against unnecessary travel. Authorities say the infection is in a woman who had traveled to Nigeria. 2 people who have tested positive for the variant in Ottawa had also been to Nigeria. Quebec Health Minister Christian Dubé says the federal government has some tough decisions to make in the coming days when it comes to travel restrictions.
I think all Ontarians should be assured we've got good testing, surveillance, whole genome sequencing capacity, and because of that, we will continue to find cases.
Dubé says it's too early to determine if restrictions will need to return. Well, in Ontario, the province's Chief Medical Officer of Health is assuring the public that the province is doing all it can to track the new COVID variant, Omicron.
I think all Ontarians should be assured we've got good testing, surveillance, whole genome sequencing capacity, and because of that, we will continue to find cases.
The province confirmed 2 cases of the variant Sunday. Moore says the 2 infected patients arrived in Montreal from Nigeria are now in isolation in Ottawa. 4 additional people are awaiting results to confirm whether they've tested positive with the Omicron variant. 2 are in Ottawa and 2 are in the Hamilton area. A new pilot program in Winnipeg aims to improve the way police handle 911 calls. The new program will add health workers to work with police services. Michelle Karlenzig joins us to tell us more.
Thanks, Melissa. The Winnipeg Police say in 2020 they did nearly 19,000 well-being checks. The response to that, the ARC program, an alternative response to citizens in crisis. There has long been calls for a better partnership between mental health care workers and police. And this pilot program between the city and the province aims to reform police responses to those in crisis. According to the city, in 2020, Winnipeg Police spent 3,500 hours, or 147 days, waiting to pass people in crises on to healthcare workers. They want to reduce those hours by sending plainclothes officers to healthcare workers after the uniformed police attend. Medical Director James Bolton says people in crises can be traumatized by hospital visits and that this program will bring healthcare supports to the person's home. Media asked why the ARC program would not have healthcare clinicians respond first to these sort of calls like some other Canadian cities have done. Inspector Chris Puhatch said that when people call 911, they want police officers to show up. The ARC program will run from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday to Friday, and it's set to start this December. Back to you, Melissa.
Thank you, Michelle. Indigenous leaders in Saskatchewan are grappling with the opioid crisis that's now reached the doorsteps of many First Nations communities. APTN's Leanne Sanders reports.
We are losing them fast and we are quite concerned. So as an elder, I too bring that message across. We need to work together, bring our communities together, and to have the surrounding neighbors and neighboring bands to come together.
Elder Mary Rose Netauhau was among a group of mental health and addictions treatment advocates from First Nations across the province who met near Prince Albert last week to address the drug crisis. Statistics from the Saskatchewan Coroner's Service show 364 suspected and confirmed drug-related deaths so far this year. Last year, the total was 314. Alcohol and drug abuse worker Joel McIntyre from the English River First Nation says opioids are now knocking at the door.
Because of COVID, the addictions went high. Suicide thoughts are going high. We had just dealt with one recently, and now we're dealing with drugs, which is not as bad, I should say, to my neighbors down south here, but it's knocking at our door. And meth is one of them.
The advocates met at HOP, a youth outreach center just outside of Prince Albert, where after-school programs from art to recreation give youth a place to belong. Founder Brian LeBlanc says reconnecting young people to their culture will help them recognize how valuable they are so they can be strong.
Giving them options and opportunities and letting them decide. But it's challenging and it's definitely getting worse. It's definitely the challenges that occur and that they face every day. It takes courage, it takes strength to stand there and turn things down and stuff.
Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
We always like to hear from you about any of the stories that we bring to you. Here's how you can continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Well, here's a look at the story that we are working on for you.
Coming up soon, we travel to Wet'suwet'en territory to speak with Slido, Molly Wickham of the Gidimt'en Access Point. Since 2012, she's lived with her family on the land. She shares the story of 3 consecutive years of RCMP raids and the pipeline dispute.
You know, you look at other occupations and other so-called protests is how they frame it, and you don't see that kind of violence coming at people. You only see that kind of violence when it's Indigenous people defending their land and their water.
This story coming soon on APTN National News.
The number of people and organizations putting reconciliation on their agenda continues to grow as more graves are confirmed at residential schools. The latest is the Bank of Canada. This is the country's fiscal agent whose function it is to promote the economic and financial well-being of Canada. The bank says that will now be done with Indigenous people. Here to discuss is Governor Tiff Macklem, head of the Bank of Canada. Sir, we are thankful that you could join us today. I guess the first question, tell us about this symposium that the Bank of Canada is putting on with the Reserve Bank of New Zealand.
Well, Melissa, thank you for having me. Monetary policy, it's a broad macro tool. And there's one monetary policy for the whole country. We can't target specific communities or businesses or sectors. But it's really important that we understand how our policy decisions affect all Canadians. And that includes Indigenous communities, Indigenous businesses. And when you look at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's report, and some of the recommendations relate to economic reconciliation, and that relates to our mandate. So this symposium, where we're working with a range of Indigenous groups, is really a first step to figuring out what does economic reconciliation mean for the work that the Bank of Canada does. And so we're launching a thoughtful, intentional process. It's going to take some time. We've had some wonderful partners. We're looking forward to working with even more Indigenous groups, and hopefully together we can chart this journey.
The Truth and Reconciliation Commission report came out in 2015. It's now 2021. Why now, I guess? Why now is the Bank of Canada saying, we've got to do our part to reconcile? And what does reconciling mean, I guess, too? Is it, we're going to cut you a check because we're a bank? Does it mean, we're giving you your land back? I mean, because banks have, and this entire country have really profited off of colonization. So I guess, how do you make up for that?
Well, perhaps we should have started sooner, but we have been working with some Indigenous partners. We've already learned a lot, but in some respects, what we've learned is we have more to learn. In terms of the sort of things we're talking about here, we have a target for inflation in the Bank of Canada. Our job is to control inflation. We need to better understand how Indigenous communities experience inflation. We know that prices tend to be higher in remote communities. And so we're involved in a project to better measure the consumer price index for First Nations. Another issue is when we change interest rates, that affects access to credit across the country. How does that translate to the availability of credit for Indigenous businesses? We know there are certain barriers to credit for Indigenous businesses. We need to understand those better. We can do analysis. Hopefully that could help reduce those barriers, and monetary policy would transmit more evenly to the whole country, including Indigenous businesses. So that's a couple of examples of the sort of things we need to learn more about.
Well, we are thankful that you took the time to chat with us today about this, and we're thankful that the Bank of Canada, this is on your radar there, and we look forward to see where this takes us.
Well, thank you, Melissa, and I hope we have a chance to follow up on this conversation.
I do too. While the economy takes a hit from the pandemic, Indigenous tourism groups in Alberta are hoping to play an important role in the province's recovery. Over 300 Indigenous tourism operators and leaders gathered on the Tsuut'ina Nation near Calgary to work toward a sustainable recovery. It was also an opportunity for Indigenous entrepreneurs to learn how to be successful in the tourism industry. Brenda Holder founded Mohican Trails, which offers cultural workshops and medicine walks in southern Alberta.
There is so much that people want to know about us, that they want to connect with us in so many different ways. And so for us to be able to open the door and offer that connection.
In Yellowknife, questions continue around the announcement of mothers having to travel to Edmonton to deliver babies. The Northwest Territories is looking at well over $1 million in medical travel expenses alone. And it's not just the dollar sign that has families stressed. Our reporter Charlotte Mort-Jacobs has that story.
Kilulak Arnunak has her packing list ready. She's one of roughly 90 expected mothers from the Northwest Territories and Western Nunavut being sent to Edmonton to deliver a baby.
Don't forget clothes for the tiny human that's going to be showing up, and what to put in a hospital bag.
She's 36 weeks along, and with a complicated pregnancy, her specialists in Yellowknife had talked about inducing her early, but those plans may change.
Switching medical support this close to the due date is very jarring and very concerning because I don't know what they're going to be like. I don't know what their opinions are. And the discussion around early inducement was the specialist I had been seeing's opinion. So this new doctor might have completely different views. Maybe this person will feel wait and see, in which case, what if he's 2 weeks late and I'm just in Edmonton for like 6 weeks?
Anunak first learned Stanton Territorial Hospital was closing their obstetrics unit by way of social media.
He got someone from primary care to call me who didn't really know what was going on, and then somebody from the hospital called me. They also didn't know what was going on.
Needless to say, there was a lot of back and forth.
I finally got a call yesterday from somebody who had spoken with the Indigenous wellness facility in Edmonton and clarified that they wanted me to fly down earlier than planned, just because of the complications from the summer. But nobody had communicated that, so it was a solid 2 or 3 hours of just blind panic, talking to people who had no idea what was going on.
In the NWT Legislative Assembly, MLAs are crunching the numbers.
It will be approximately $12,500 for the patient and her escort to go to Edmonton and stay there for 28 days or 4 weeks. This cost includes flights, accommodation, transportation, and meals.
Note, that doesn't include the cost Alberta healthcare system will charge the NWT, of which Minister Green says is an unclear number and depends on complexity of births.
This is where I've been putting all of my nesting energy these last few weeks into finishing this guy up. So,
for Anunak, she wants clarification on what supports are available.
So I have friends that have kids at home who are working and their spouses are working, dogs, pets, houses. Like it's the subarctic in the middle of winter. You can't just leave houses a lot of the time, like everything freezes. And the GNWT has not given any indication to a lot of people how they're going to help support families at this time.
Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
We need to take another break, but what happens when an APTN reporter trades in a microphone for a medieval sword? We are about to find out. Here's our Quebec correspondent, Lindsay Richardson.
Patience, precision, power. Oh, smack. 3 qualities I clearly don't have. In a world first, Gunawaga Mohawk territory is taking up longsword fencing, and it looks like it's going to be a smash. That action and more coming up on APTN National News.
Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. An early evening view of the Hotel Fort Garry in downtown Winnipeg. That's the historic Forks there in the background. Thanks to Gerald Richardson for sending us this photo. You can send in your photos to share at aptn.ca. Show us your holiday decorations, your travels out and about, or some beautiful scenery. We're always looking for a good photo of the day. Let's take a look now at tomorrow's weather forecast. To the east coast, we've got -3 and showers for Fredericton. Flurries maybe for Charlottetown, 3 degrees there. The Grand River flurries -6. Kuujjuaq -8 and flurries there as well. Sept-Îles -4 and flurries, -5 and sunshine for Quebec City. North Bay 0 and snow. Sault Ste. Marie, you're getting snow too, 2 degrees. -2 in Sioux Lookout and snow, -11 and snow for Big Trout Lake. -13 in sunshine for Thompson, -15 in sunny for Puckatawagan. -1 in Gimli and snow there. Barons River, you're getting some sunshine, -5 degrees. 5 with a chance of flurries at some point in Regina, 9 and sunny for Swift Current. -3 and snow for Buffalo Narrows, mix of sun and cloud, -18 for Uranium City. Grand Prairie, 4 degrees with a chance of showers, -4 and snow for Fort McMurray. 4 and cloud for Edmonton, 11 and sunny mostly for Lethbridge. 9 and rain for Kamloops. Quesnel, 7 and showers. Prince George, 7 and showers as well. Dease Lake, -5 and snow. Rock River, -31 and sunny. -30 and a mix of sun and clouds for Dawson City. Trout Lake and Fort Leard, you're both -25 with a chance of flurries. Sunshine, and -31 for Norman Wells. Tuktoyaktuk, -27 and sunshine. Sax Harbor, -25 and sunny. Clear skies for you two in Cambridge Bay, -33 though, -8 and snow for Chesterfield. Kenite, -5 and snow. Tallyoak, -21 and clear skies. Many governments acknowledge the land they are on as being traditional Indigenous territories, and for the first time today, Manitoba has made such an acknowledgement as well. For years, the PC government rejected calls to open the House with a formal land acknowledgement. When former Premier Brian Pallister resigned, interim Premier Kelvin Gertsen began laying the groundwork to have an acknowledgement made. The province's 3 political parties agreed unanimously after consulting with Indigenous leaders, and history was finally made today.
Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. We acknowledge we are gathered on Treaty 1 territory and that Manitoba is located on the treaty territories and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Inuak, Dakota O'Ete, Dene Sulene, and Nihen-Owuk. We acknowledge part of Manitoba is located on the homeland of the Red River Métis. We acknowledge northern Manitoba includes lands that were and are the ancestral lands of the Inuit. We remain committed to working in partnership with the Indigenous peoples in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration in accordance with their constitutional rights and human rights.
Well, Manitoba's last to the party, but congratulations on getting there. Well, that is your APTN News to kick off the week. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Thank's for joining us. We are always thankful to have you join us here. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.